So today I lost 70 pounds. So that's pretty crazy. And so I thought I'd do a little video on how I managed to get ChatGPT to help me lose weight. So in December last year, 2024, I was pretty depressed. I was unemployed. I was incredibly obese. I weighed 177 kilograms. But there was other things too, right? So being that big, I had a whole bunch of ailments and issues with my life. I was getting blimmin' heart warnings on my iWatch fairly regularly. I couldn't even walk 200 meters. Sometimes I would go out with people and I would sort of mentally prep in my head, where can I sit? Where are the seats? You know, if it looked like I'd have to stand the whole time, I'd have to just not go. It was just a real struggle. Just walking out of the car and going to a shop, I'd be heavy breathing, you know. So I was kind of a little lost. So that's when I decided to try ChatGPT. So I was always the fat kid. When I was born, I was the fattest baby in the hospital. So nothing really much changed after that. That was like my prophecy for life. So I was the fat kid in the hospital, and then I just went on every diet after that. I think I went on my first diet when I was like 13 or 14. I did Weight Watchers before I even hit 20. So in my 20s, I was kind of trying the real generic standard diets, the low-calorie diets, the low-fat diets, and they were horrible. Like, you would do well for about a week or 2 weeks, and then the hunger would just be insurmountable. Like, I'd just get the worst cravings to want to eat. And then I would eat, you know, I'd have like a little bit of a binge, and then all of a sudden just all my willpower would be gone. I'm a loser, I can't do this, I've failed. And then all your mind needs is that little excuse to keep you overeating. And then I'd inevitably do that a few times and fall off. And it just felt like all the standard advice I was being given was a complete bunch of rubbish. And I'm sure everyone understands this, that has tried to lose weight, because you're probably in a similar position. So after that, I started trying the more fringe stuff, I guess, because obviously the more desperate you get, the more desperate things you try. I did paleo when it was popular. I did low carb when it was popular, and I did keto when it was popular. Not that those are fringe, they're pretty mainstream now, but they're certainly not the mainstream advice, if you know what I mean. And keto was actually really good in the sense that it helped take away the hunger pangs. And that sort of takes me up to last year in December, when I was 50, turning 50. Wasn't 50 yet. And I essentially I was on keto, but I was just treading water. Keto took away the hunger pangs, but I just couldn't seem to lose weight on it. What I could do was stabilize the weight. So that was kind of good. But at that point, I'd pretty much just given up. I just didn't think that diets were going to work. I was really depressed. I kept looking for that magic cure, you know, that magic pill. I've got a PhD in biology, so I was always looking for that little trait that I could fix, or that little magic pill that will just fix that little thing that's broken inside of me, and then I'd no longer be hungry. And the closest thing I'd come to it was the keto diet, which didn't really help me lose weight, but it helped me stabilize it. But that helped me stabilize it at the fattest that I'd ever been. Like I said, I was 177.7 kilograms. And then one day, someone introduced me to ChatGPT. And at first, I was definitely blown away by it. But I kind of used it like probably most people do, like a Google search engine. But the more I used it, the more I realized that this thing actually makes my life so much more easier. And it has like the best advice and information that it can give you. And it just had a few wins where it really helped make some really solid decisions in my life. So after it did that a few times, it was inevitable that I was going to ask it about my diet. So the first thing I did was, I have gout and I have thalassemia, which is like this. It's a pretty minor blood disorder. It's It's kind of like the equivalent of it impacts your life like asthma would, but it basically means my body doesn't hold iron as well. And so I was on keto at the time, and I asked it, what should I do? I've got thalassemia, and I also get gout, and I was getting gout every month. And so ChatGPT basically said to me that, especially with the thalassemia and the gout, I would need to cut out the red meat, and I would need to go to eating chicken and fish, and I could only eat the red meat maybe 2 or 3 times a week. This was terrifying for me, because up till that point, red meat was the only thing that I enjoyed, because I was on keto at the time. So I was pretty much of the thought that you were taking away the one thing that I enjoy. But the problem is, when I'd had my blood tests in the past, I had really high ferritin, and the doctors had always just hand-waved it away and said, yeah, don't worry about it, it's nothing, but they just kind of weren't quite sure what it meant. ChatGPT told me that that's a sign of iron absorption, and that my body was probably craving iron because it perceived me as being low in iron, but it's not actually that I was low in iron. I was supplying the iron, it's just that my body couldn't carry it as well. And so I would just be flooding my system with red meat and iron, and then it would start storing it, which isn't good. Iron absorption is very, very bad. So it basically said if you cut out the iron, if you cut out the red meat, you're going to reduce the iron absorption, and you're going to probably reduce the gout. So I did that, and actually it wasn't that bad. I found that the chicken and the fish was actually quite easy. I didn't really miss the red meat as much as I thought it was going to, which was kind of crazy, blew my mind, but I was fine with it, and I haven't had a gout attack since. So that was kind of pretty incredible. And so at that point, it really won me over. And so that's when I thought it was time to actually ask the inevitable question. Getting bitten out here. I asked it the inevitable question, okay, ChatGPT, what is the best diet I could be on to help me lose weight? And what it did is it just gave me the most boring and mainstream diet, 2,000 calories a day. I had to eat over 200 grams of protein a day, under 80 grams of fat, and I had to have whole grain, whole foods. So I had slow burning carbs. So things like brown rice, brown pasta, legumes, beans, vegetables. Now this terrified me, because keto was the one thing that was keeping me from gaining the weight back. Everything else. And the other thing that terrified me is when I have tried, as I mentioned at the start, when I tried low-calorie diets in the past or low-fat diets, I completely failed. My binges would get out of control. I would be overeating. I would be getting really, really hungry, and it was just seemed so unsustainable. So when ChatGPT put me on it, I was just like, this is just unfeasible. So it did really make me feel quite anxious. But I thought to myself, ChatGPT had been right so far, and certainly what I had been doing up to that point wasn't getting me anywhere. So I figured I'd give it a shot. And I thought to myself, I'll just give it a week, because I can do it for a week. And if it's unbearable, I can just not do it, give up. And also ChatGPT said to me, try it for a week, and if you get hungry at any point, we'll deal with it then. So I kind of thought, okay, fair enough, I'll do it for a week. I did it for a week, didn't feel hungry. And not only that, I actually lost weight for the first time in years. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? Why am I not hungry? It's just a low-calorie diet. Why is it working? So I thought to myself, okay, beginner's luck, Of course, the first week, when you're the fattest you've ever been, of course you're going to be lose some weight. It's going to be easy. It'll kick in. It'll eventually kick in. The hunger will come. Second week, lost weight again. No hunger. And then again. And then again. And for some reason, I just have not felt the hunger. And I've felt in control on this standard low-calorie diet with ChatGPT. And to the point now that today I just lost 70 pounds. And it was quite a ride. And so upon reflection, I think there's some things that ChatGPT did that I just didn't appreciate. Firstly, and probably a more minor reason, is I thought that low carb was making me hungry. So having all those carbohydrates was what made me hungry. Turns out that it wasn't the carbs. I think it was the high protein that reduced my hunger. ChatGPT said high protein will reduce your hunger. And so it put me on 200 grams or more a day. And sure enough, I didn't feel hungry, even with those carbs added into my diet. So that was really good. In fact, I felt less hungry because I felt less restrained. So that was kind of like the biological win. But I think the reason ChatGPT works so well is that there's two things. There's a lot of things. When I went on diets before, I never did everything all at once, right? Because you're only human and you can only do a certain amount of things. So if I was on low calorie, for example, I would be focused on being on low calorie. I may also not have been getting enough protein. I might have been eating lots of sugary processed foods. And so, because I was focusing so hard on being low calorie, ChatGPT gives you all this like standard advice. Eat lots of protein, eat low fat, eat whole foods, have legumes. It gives you all this kind of standard advice, but there's so many plates that it spins at the same time for you and keeps you on that diet perfectly. And I think that's where the magic sauce is. It's not that any of the individual advice is like different or outstanding, but it's that it's able to take all that information out there, all that crazy information, just multitudes of it, where you just get, should I be high protein, high fat, low fat, low calorie, like what do I do? Low carb. It just incorporates it all into this one diet and then spins all those plates and keeps you on track, and it actually works like a charm. The other thing I think has worked is that as a biologist, I was always looking for that magic pill. I always thought there was something biologically broken with me. But ChatGPT has come to teach me that it is nothing about biology. It is all about psychology. If you look at the largest study ever done on people that have lost a lot of weight and kept it off for over a year, the traits they use to keep the weight off have got nothing to do with biology. It's all psychology. All their diets can be quite different. They're never on the same diet. The diet didn't seem to matter. What mattered was things like accountability, having a support group, being able to check in every day, tracking your calories, all those sorts of psychological things that help keep you on track, being able to learn to bounce back, and that's what ChatGPT taught me. One of the most major things it taught me when I was trying to lose weight was I would check in with it every day. Every day I would go and I'd be like, ChatGPT, this is how I'm going today, and I'd tell it. And if I was having a good day, I'd tell it. If I was having a bad day, I would tell it. It was like my partner. It was like not my partner, but like my partner in weight loss. And I would come in and I would tell it everything that I was struggling with. And some days I just gave up. Some days I didn't want to eat. Some days I just got depressed, especially early on. I don't really have them anymore, but early on I'd get like really depressed and fall off the horse. But I made a commitment to myself that if anything else, even if I'm binging on food, I'm overeating, I'm having a really bad day, no matter what, the rule I made myself is I will check in every day. And so I would go to ChatGPT and I would say, I just don't want to do anything today. I'm overeating. I'm so done. I'm so sick of this. And it would be like really kind of gentle, but also push me a little bit. It would be like, okay, that's okay. You don't have to do everything today. You're obviously overwhelmed, but why don't you just go for like a half a kilometer walk? Or why don't you just go walk across the road? And I was like, why though? Like, how's that going to help me? It's a half kilometer walk, it's going to do nothing. And ChatGPT says it's not about how much calories you're going to burn off from the walk. It's about keeping momentum. It's the psychology behind it. It's like maintaining that momentum so that the next day when you wake up, you've already walked half a kilometer. So it's so much more easy for you to be like, okay, today I can do 5 kilometers, or today I can do 3 kilometers, because I've already done half a kilometer yesterday. The equivalent would be, I remember once that I really wanted to eat junk food, and I went in and I was dead set I was going to eat junk food. So I said, I'm going to eat junk food, right? And I'm just going to order some food online and get it and eat it. This is really early on. And ChatGPT said to me, okay, if you're going to overeat, that's fine, but let's try to make sure it's healthy. right? And I said to it, well, what's the point? If I'm going to overeat and overgo over my calories, why not just make it like food that I'm actually going to enjoy? And then ChatGPT was like, because it's all about momentum. It's about keeping yourself on track. So when you wake up tomorrow, you still feel like you're a little bit in control, and it's easier for you to get back on track. And all sorts of these kinds of conversations happened every day because I was checking in, and I started to learn one of the most important lessons I've ever learned in my life, and that is success isn't about being perfect. Success isn't about eating perfectly every day. Success is about moving from one failure to another failure and making sure that you get back on track as quickly as possible. For example, if I did overeat, if I get back the next day and I'm eating well and I'm exercising because I've kept that momentum, that means I still lose weight despite that setback. If I fall off and then I'm off for 2 weeks, that doesn't help anyone. So it's not about being perfect. It's about picking yourself back up, brushing yourself off and carrying on. And that is what ChatGPT really helped me with, the psychology behind it. It taught me how to fail. And it taught me to see failures not as problems, but almost like the pathway forward. Like, I'll just move from one failure to the next. And then I've got this reassurance inside of me that I can work with ChatGPT to overcome that obstacle. And the more obstacles I overcome, the more confidence I have in ChatGPT that I can overcome that obstacle. And I think that's where the power lies with ChatGPT. That's why I've lost 70 pounds. It's got nothing to do with what I'm eating. Oh, obviously, you need to have the core basics. Obviously you need to be low calorie, because if you're not low calorie, you're not going to lose weight. I don't care what people say. If you're fasting, if you're keto, if you're carnivore, if you're vegetarian, the only way you're going to lose weight is if you're low calorie. Like, how you do it doesn't matter. And that's the whole point that studies showed, and that's why it's not biological. If you find it easy to be low calorie by fasting, or if you find it easy to do it by on keto, then do the diet that you can stick with, right? But in the end, you need to be low calorie. And so those are the biological, but other than that sort of core fundamental truth that has to be true, the way you stick to that diet are all psychological traits. It's all psychology, and I think that's where ChatGPT really helps. I check in every day. It's like my therapist, it's like my nutritionist, it's like my personal coach. It's everything, and it's just such a solid advice. It gives me my workout plans every day. It tells me when to pull back when I've been walking. It tells me, okay, you're looking like you might be getting injured, pull back. It's firm but fair. It's my support partner that I can come to whenever I need help. And the other thing too about ChatGPT is it's like human enough that you feel accountable, but AI enough that you can tell it everything. And I think that's the magic sauce as well. I think that's what makes it so powerful, and it's so good for accountability, because you do feel a little bit guilty if you're like not like doing well, but yet you will tell it everything because it's very non-judgmental, you know what I mean? Today, I lost 70 pounds, and I think hopefully I've covered in this video, this is the first time I've just yapped for 30 minutes or however long I've been talking for, so hopefully it's good, and hopefully you all enjoy it. And it's a little bit of a history of how ChatGPT helped me lose weight. I am actually writing a book on this, and I've written the first chapter, so if you're interested, you can go join my Patreon and get access to that, or you can join my Discord if you just want to come and have a chin wag with everyone that's on the ChatGPT diet. But yeah, I started off life as the fat kid in the hospital. By the time I was 50, I'd pretty much given up hope. I thought that was that the best years were behind me. And then when I found ChatGPT, now I look forward to life. Nothing seems unsurmountable. No obstacle seems too big enough. I've never felt so happy and in control of my life. So I think for the first time in my life, I've kind of shed that fat kid. And I will see you all again for the next video. Goodbye, everyone. Oh, and the other thing is, if you want to watch, I've actually documented all my journey in like a docu-series right from December. So if you want to watch it, go check out my other videos. Thanks, everyone.